Hello, my name is Jade Watford, and I am with the Taylor Watford Foundation. I am so honored to be your Red Ribbon Week speaker today. Red Ribbon Week is super important to me, and I hope that it is super important to you, especially after everything we talk about today. I am 22 years old and drug-free, and I am super excited to share the benefits of living a drug-free life with you. I think it is so valuable. It's a certain type of freedom when you choose not to use drugs. And I really want you guys to understand that and make the same choice. If you look on the right here, that's a picture of my brother. And then under it is a picture of me, my brother, and my sister when he was still alive. My brother died in 2018 when he was 28 years old from drugs, more specifically, a fentanyl poisoning. And we will talk about what that is here in a minute. But he was such an amazing guy who just made a few not so amazing choices. And I don't want your friends and family to miss you the way that we miss him today. And so that's why I'm here talking to you. If you look in the bottom left corner, you'll see a little thing that says repeat after me. A fun psychology fact is that if you say something out loud, you are 10 times more likely to remember it. And there are a lot of things in this presentation that I want you guys to remember for a very long time. So repeat after me. I am ready to learn. Okay, awesome. I can't really hear you, but I'm sure that was great. So before we get started, we need to kind of define drugs. When you think of Red Ribbon Week, you mostly just think, don't do drugs, but what does that even mean? So when I say drugs today, I'm talking about any substance that you're taking or smoking that does not serve a medical purpose and it did not come from a pharmacy with your own prescription. It's illegal to have and take a prescription medication that's not yours. So I'm going to refer to these as illegal pills. Some examples of this are if you're buying like Xanax or whatever off the street, taking a friend's Adderall, taking a family member's Percocet, anything that is not yours. Some examples of drugs that we're going to talk about today is weed, which is marijuana, cocaine, illegal pills, vapes if you're under the age of 21, and THC or CBD products if you're under the age of 21. Now, when I say drugs, I am not talking about your medicine that you got from your doctor with your own prescription or over-the-counter drugs like Tylenol that you got from a real pharmacy or drugstore like CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, wherever you shop. So we're going to go through the top 10 reasons to be drug-free. And these are not in any particular order because people are very different. We all have very different values. So you might value, money more than health. I might value friends more than family. We're all different. So pay attention to these and think about what's most important to you and why you're going to choose to be drug-free. First one is health. Drugs can lead to extreme health issues like cancer or heart disease, and people who are drug-free tend to be much healthier. Number two is money. Drugs cost money, and especially if you become addicted to them and you're buying them every day, every week, it's a very expensive habit. So not only do drug-free people save money, but they actually earn more money on average in their lifetime and in their careers. Our third reason is friends. Using drugs can harm or end your friendships, and drug-free people tend to have more and better quality friendships. Number four is family. Using drugs can harm your family relationships, just like your friendships, and people who are drug-free report having better relationships with their family, especially their children, parents, and spouses. Jobs. Many jobs will require you to be drug-free. I know at my job, we have to be drug tested. Pretty much any high earning, high prestige job that you might be dreaming of right now, you have to be drug-free. Teachers, pro athletes, lawyers, doctors, police officers, all of those jobs require you to be drug-free. And if you're going to have a job that has a special perk, like having a company car, you're going to have to be drug-free. So not only do these particular jobs require it, but drug-free people tend to get promoted more and fired less. Trouble. Most drugs are legal, and all drugs are illegal for people under the age of 21. You can get in trouble with your family, your parents. You might lose privileges, lose their trust. You can get in trouble with your team or your club at school. You can get in trouble with the school itself or law enforcement. People who use drugs are more likely to spend time in prison or jail. Number 8 is happiness. People who are drug-free report being much happier than people who are not. Then we have brain power. Using drugs can permanently affect the way your brain works. I studied psychology in college and I got to see this firsthand. There are people that they have not used drugs in 5 or 10 years, but their brain scans still show damage from the choices that they made 10 plus years ago. It's absolutely crazy. You're especially vulnerable to brain damage when you're young. And people who are drug-free have healthier brains and they score higher on memory and intelligence tests. This does not mean that people who use drugs cannot be smart, they cannot have good memory. This is just saying that on average, it tends to have these effects. Number 9 is strength. Drugs can weaken you physically and mentally. People who use drugs lose muscle mass and become dangerously weak. Drug-free people are much stronger and emotionally resilient on average. Number 10 here, I lied. I said that no reason is more important than the other. Number 10 is the most important. Life. Drugs can end someone's life, even the first time. Last year, over 100,000 people died directly because of drugs. Has anyone here ever been to a Clemson or Carolina football game? Because 100,000 people is more than either of those football stadiums can hold. Imagine if you're at the football game and everyone just died. Wouldn't that'd be terrifying, right? Well, it is terrifying because this is what is happening every single year because of drugs. So let's talk about that. How do drugs kill people? So there are 2 different terms that you might hear used. Earlier, I said my brother died from a fentanyl poisoning. A poisoning is when someone thinks they're taking one thing, but it's really something else. And it might be something else entirely, or it might be something else mixed in or laced. Overdose is what happens when someone just takes too much of a drug. This happens a lot of time with drugs like meth, heroin, and cocaine, and fake pills because they were already deadly on their own when you take too much. Fentanyl and xylazine are the most common poisonings. This is when people take fentanyl and xylazine and they lace them into other drugs. Now, this is what I was thinking the first time I heard this. What even is fentanyl? Why would someone put it in other drugs? Fentanyl is a substance that is very deadly. If you look up here in the top right corner, you see that pencil tip? That is such a tiny, tiny amount of fentanyl. It fits right there on the pencil. I think it's about the size of like 3 or 4 grains of sand. That's how much can kill you. Just that much. So tiny. It's been found laced in every drug in South Carolina. Now, why would the people who make drugs lace it into other drugs? And how will we know if it's there? The honest answer is you can't really tell if it's there. That's one of the reasons that it's so important to be drug-free, because anytime you use drugs, there's a huge risk of death. People who make and sell drugs mix fentanyl in them to make them stronger. And this can make the drug up to 100 times more deadly. Like I said, with that little pencil tip, only 2 milligrams is a deadly amount. You can't see, taste, or smell it when it's mixed in another drug. And anyone who says that they can tell if it's in it is lying, unless they are the one who put it in there or they have like laboratory government testing equipment. Here are some more facts about fentanyl. At least 50% of all drugs are laced with fentanyl. This is your THC, gummies and stuff you can buy off the street. This is your fake pills, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, any drug that you can think of that you would buy off the street, like illegally, 50% of those are laced with fentanyl. What else is 50% odds? Flipping a coin, right? Would you flip a coin for your life? I know that I wouldn't, and that's just what makes this so much scarier. 70% of fake pills are laced with fentanyl. It's been found in fake Xanax, fake Percocet, fake Adderall pills, nicotine, and THC or weed vapes. It's been found in THC and CBD gummies and edibles, like your brownies and candies and cookies and stuff. It's even been found in fake Tylenol and ibuprofen pills. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit. If you walk into the CVS and you're buying Tylenol or ibuprofen, you do not need to be scared. Those are safe. They have been put on the shelf by the store, hopefully. A lot of times, drug dealers will make fentanyl that looks like Tylenol or ibuprofen, but they're not going and putting it in stores. They're just kind of using it as a costume or disguise to sell it to their customers. And unfortunately, that does often make it end up in the wrong hands where someone does think they're taking Tylenol or ibuprofen and it's really fentanyl. But I don't want you to be scared when you walk into the grocery store and you're just purchasing over-the-counter medicine. That should be safe. Fentanyl has also been found in candy lookalikes, and we'll see an example of that in a little bit, and already deadly drugs like heroin, meth, and cocaine. All right, we just talked about the 50% statistic, so repeat after me. My life is worth more than the flip of a coin. Awesome. Wish I could have heard that. So, how can you tell if a drug is laced? The only way to tell for sure is in a laboratory test. Like I said, it can't be smelled, seen, or tasted another drug. Not even people who use the drug every single day would be able to tell. No one is an expert or trustworthy when it comes to drugs, and if they say that they are and that they can tell, they are lying. This is why it is so important to take medication that came from the pharmacy and it is yours. You cannot take the risk on taking anything, putting anything in your body that could possibly be laced with fentanyl because it is so dangerous. Even good people with good intentions can have deadly drugs. Unfortunately, I know a mother that her son had had his wisdom teeth removed and he was in a lot of pain. The pharmacy was closed. I think they lived in Michigan or something. It was snowing. She didn't want to drive to the pharmacy. So she just went next door and asked their neighbor if they had any pain medicine. And the neighbor sold her pain pills and it was laced with fentanyl. And she gave it to her son and her son passed away. He was like 14 years old. It's just so scary. And, people can have good intentions. They can think that they're helping you, but it's not worth the risk. And it's your responsibility to say no. So we're going to play a little game here. I'm going to show you photos of some of the drugs that we mentioned, and you're going to guess which one is laced and which one is real. So these are Percocet pills. Which one do you think is laced? Point up for the top one and point down for the bottom one. It's the top one. I think this one they wanted to throw you off because the one on the bottom, it looks a little more rugged. The indentions in the letters, they're not as sharp. But we just said you can't tell because you can't see it. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. So that's not an indicator. All right, this is CBD vape additive. You put this in the vape cartridge. Which one of these do you think was laced with fentanyl? Point left for the one on the left and point right for the one on the right. It was the one on the right. These are identical. The one on the right, this one was actually sold in a gas station. The owner of the gas station was lacing them with fentanyl to sell to people. All right, these are Xanax pills. Which one do you think is laced and which one do you think is real? Point to the one that you think is laced. The one on the right was laced with fentanyl. These are Delta 8 THC gummies, just like what you can find in almost any gas station. Point to the one that you think is laced with fentanyl. The one on the left was laced with fentanyl. Again, this one was being sold in a gas station. Customers had no idea. All right, these are supposed to be Pez candy, one of the best candies of all time. That's not an unpopular opinion. I'm proud to say that I love Pez. And so this is what is so scary. Which one do you think is laced with fentanyl? They both look like delicious Pez to me. Point to the one you think is laced. The one on the left was laced with fentanyl. That is so crazy. All right, here we have 2 Juuls. Which one do you think was laced with fentanyl? And a lot of people will tell you that vapes cannot have fentanyl in them because it will burn them. And most of the time, if there is fentanyl in a vape cartridge, it will get like burnt out, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes, especially if you come in contact with it when you're changing it out, it can kill you. Which one do you think was laced? Point to it. The one on the left. If you saw that just sitting out on the counter, you had no idea. There's no way to tell. Isn't that so crazy? All right, now let's talk about myths. Let's bust some myths. Who here has seen Mythbusters before? Yeah, I love them. So we're going to do a little bit of Mythbusters of our own. Myth. Some illegal pills are safe or legit because you can test them at home with test strips. So there is a little bit of truth to this, not that it's safe. You can get fentanyl test strips where you can test drugs at home. But this is super, super risky because think of it like a cookie. You can see that chocolate chip cookie, and sure, I could take a bite out of it and say, there are no chocolate chips in this because maybe the bite I got did not have chocolate chips. This is kind of how fentanyl works. It does not get dispersed evenly throughout the drug. It can be in a small portion. So if you're just testing half of the pill, the fentanyl could be in the other half. And so you could have a test that says that it's safe, and then you could end up dying because there was fentanyl in the drug. Test strips are not accurate. And honestly, if you're in a position where you're having to test your drugs, you probably should reevaluate and not use the drug in the first place because it's already super, super risky and unsafe behavior. Our next myth, my friends and family wouldn't have fentanyl-laced drugs. Like we talked about earlier with that mom and her son, fentanyl can end up in the wrong hands very easily, especially with what appears to be a medication. Because like we said, drug dealers and the people that make fentanyl and bring it here into our state, they're putting it in disguise because they're trying to disguise it from law enforcement. And a lot of times they disguise it as other drugs that we might want and think that are safe or not as deadly as other drugs. And that's what makes this super, super risky. Illegal pills are often sold 4 to 5 times before someone takes them, and 70% are laced with fentanyl. That's worse odds than flipping a coin. Your friend may not even know that there is fentanyl in something when they offer it to you. I know several people who gave someone that they love a laced pill, which is true and very, very sad. Dealers are not trustworthy and do not have your best interest in mind. Anyone that is offering you drugs that knows the dangers of drugs, they are not your real friend. They do not care about you. Our third myth, this does not apply to me. Nobody will ever offer me drugs. So like I told you guys earlier, I'm 22 years old. And if I was in your shoes 10 years ago, I probably would have thought the same thing. I'll never be in a position where somebody's going to offer me drugs because I thought it was like the movies where a sketchy guy comes up to you and says like, hey, you want something? Or I got this, that, and whatever. But it's not like that. Most of the time, it will be someone that you know. I have been offered drugs probably more than 10 times. And I do this all the time. I go tell people about drugs and people still offer me drugs. It's crazy how often this happens. And as you get older, especially if you go to college or you work a job when you're in your early to mid 20s, people are going to offer you drugs and you just need to be prepared to say no. Here are a few of situations where I have actually been offered drugs. A friend might offer you a pill to help you sleep or study. This is very, very common in college. And I actually know several people that passed away in college from this very same situation. Someone on your sports team might offer you something to help with pain from an injury that you got at practice. They might be trying to help you. A friend's sibling might ask you to try something at a sleepover. You might be, hanging out with your crush, and they might ask you to take a hit of something to relax. Our fourth myth, I can't say no because. It will be hard to say no. It's always hard to say no because no one wants to disappoint someone or look like a loser, especially when you're with your friends or people that you want to continue to be friends with. But the coolest person in the room is the first person who says no, because they take the pressure off of everyone else to say yes, and you give everyone else an opportunity to say no. If you're sitting around with friends and someone's smoking weed, they bring it out and they say, hey, let's sesh real quick. and they start passing it around, I guarantee you that other people there, they didn't want to do it. They just felt pressured. So if you're brave enough to say no, they're going to respect you and admire you for taking that pressure off of them and, being different, going against the flow. It is always better to lose a relationship because you said no rather than lose it because you're dead. Repeat after me. Real friends take no for an answer. Awesome. That sounded great. I just want to tell you guys, I have had this happen to me firsthand in high school and in college. Saying no is not always easy, but it is worth it. And I have people that in high school, I said no when I was with a group of friends. And at the time, they thought that, I wasn't cool or I was a loser. And then they come to me 3 or 4 years later and they say, I really respect you for that because I wish that I would have never done what I was doing. That did not leave me down a good path. That was not a good choice. I was only doing it because I thought it was cool. And I wish that I would have said no. And I'm sorry that I made you feel bad for saying no. Everyone that I know from middle school, high school, college that was using drugs or, vaping, doing things that were illegal and unsafe because they thought they were cool, they regret it now because they're either still addicted to them and battling that addiction, which is super, super tough, or it led to consequences that took away opportunities for them. And it really just did not turn out well for them and they regret it. Another myth. Everyone tries drugs when they are young. So I'm sure most of us have heard stories from our parents or older relatives about, them doing what high schoolers or college students did back in the day. But things are not the same as they were 10 years ago. They're not even the same as they were last year. Fentanyl is spreading like crazy and it wasn't around back then. So drugs were still like a bad choice back then. They could still harm you and, mess up your brain, but they were not as deadly. People could do drugs every weekend and still live. The drug death rates were super, super low, and they have skyrocketed. Today, like I said, 100,000 people die every year because of drugs. So we can't take the risk of trying anything because just the first time you try it, it could be deadly. I know several people that have passed away the very first time that they use drugs. And using drugs does not make you mature or grown. Making responsible decisions does make you mature or grown. And like I've said, take it from me, I know people that thought that it was cool, they thought it was making them grown up, and it did not turn out well for them. Repeat after me. Being young is about learning from your mistakes, not dying from them. Awesome, that sounded great. So I don't know if your school has showed you our 4 strategies for saying no, but we're going to go over that really, really quickly. Strategy number 1 is the soft shutdown. You don't owe anyone an answer or an explanation for why you don't want to do something. You can just say, no thanks, not my thing, not tonight. Play it cool, just say no. Strategy number 2 is the blame game. Always, 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 you can blame it on someone else. Say that your mom would be mad, you can't during soccer, cheerleading season, whatever. Say that your job drug test you or your sport drug test you, which is true in South Carolina high schools. You can say you have a test tomorrow or that you offered to drive someone else home. You can always also suggest something else. Just say, let's play Xbox or let's go to McDonald's. Let's just watch The Summer I Turned Pretty. Do something else. And the 4th strategy, which I always think is the best strategy, is just tell the truth because, like we said earlier, sometimes when you speak up and you say no, you're giving other people an opportunity to change their minds too. If you know someone who has died from using drugs, be honest, tell your friends that. That might be a wake-up call for them. Tell them about fentanyl or drugs being laced if they don't know. Tell them that you don't want them to make this choice because you don't want them to die. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening today. We're going to close this out with a little game of what would you do? Who has seen What Would You Do? What Would You Do with John Quinones? I think that's how you say his name on TV. I love that show. I'm always walking around in public, like pretending like I'm on the show. So we're going to play that right now. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on if the situation is safe or if you should do it. You're having trouble staying awake during class because you can't sleep at night. A friend offers you a pill that will help you sleep. Thumbs up or down? I hate not being able to sleep, but I hope you have your thumb down because sleeping pills, anxiety pills, any pill that can help you sleep, those are one of the most commonly faked pills that are laced with fentanyl. Situation number 2. It seems like everyone you know has a vape. They never get in, They never get in trouble and it doesn't seem to cause them any issues. Should you get one? Thumbs up or down? Okay, I'm glad that your thumb is down because, like we said, vaping is dangerous. Not only can it sometimes be laced with fentanyl, but when you're under the age of 21, you can't make that choice for yourself. Vaping does have long-term side effects like lung cancer, lung diseases, and it's just not cool. I know a lot of people that vaped in high school and now they're addicted to it as adults and they wish that they weren't. They always say, I wish I could just go back and never even started it because it's not cool. It's not safe. All right. Your best friend got THC Delta 8 gummies from the gas station by her house. She says that they make you feel relaxed and really silly. She wants you to try one. Thumbs up or down? All right, thumbs down. We saw earlier those THC gummies were laced with fentanyl and they can kill you, right? And just because something is in the gas station doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe because Delta 8 THC products, they're not well regulated, especially not in South Carolina because marijuana is not legal here. So there's not a lot of regulations making these safe, and it's really easy for fentanyl-laced things to end up in the wrong hands. You get a headache at your friend's house. You call your family, but they aren't answering the phone. Your friend's mom offers you what appears to be a Tylenol, and they promise you that it's from CVS. They just bought it this afternoon. Thumbs up or down? All right, this one's a little tricky. I hope your thumb is down. So your friend and their mom tell you it's from CVS. I'm sure they're telling the truth, but unfortunately, you can't believe people unless you were with them at CVS and you saw them buy it. You really need to wait until someone in your family picks up the phone to either get their permission or have them bring you something just in case. Because like we said earlier, dealers that are making fentanyl sometimes package it in Tylenol as a disguise and it can accidentally end up in the wrong hand. I do know someone that has passed away from this and it is super, super sad, and I don't want this to happen to you. All right, your teammate always gives their all at practice, even when they're injured or sore. This is because they buy pain medicine and they swear that it makes you feel 100% better almost instantly. Well, you hurt your ankle and you really want to play in the tournament this weekend. Thumbs up or down? All right, anyone noticing a pattern here? This one is a thumbs down because pain medicine, any kind of pain medicine, 70% of these fake pills are laced with fentanyl. This is so, so dangerous. Even if your friend tells you that it's from their uncle, dad, mom, grandma, whatever's medicine cabinet, you cannot be sure, and it might be laced with fentanyl. It's always best to assume that something is laced because this could kill you. One tournament is not going to make or break you. Get real medical attention. Tell someone in your family, but do not take random pills from your friends. All right, that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that when you think of Red Ribbon Week, you think of my brother's story, and you think of how important it is to be drug-free. I'm from the Taylor Watt Foundation. We do have an Instagram, and we share information like this every single day. So not right now, but if you have an Instagram, remember Taylor Watt Foundation and find us on there and follow us to keep up with the latest drug education information. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great Red Ribbon Week, and I will see you later.